I love to read about the Middle Ages. It seems almost glorified in the way it was, what with the knights and princesses and all. The reality to almost any history student is very different. Lots of wars, disease, and whatnot. Speaking of wars, there was more to it than knights. There were archers, catapults, and even dead animals that were flung over castle walls as a way to try and bring down the fortress and people inside. The different methods of waging war, the different types of warriors that can attack your bodily fortress are just as interesting and numerous. There are many terms that are used against an opposing force: army, enemy, invader, and so forth. All of these entities are there to cause a city or kingdom harm. The microscopic things in nature that are out there to cause you harm, agents of disease, are collectively called pathogens. In medieval war, the enemy was there for a reason. It was rare for an invader to launch an attack just for fun. Usually wars were started because the enemy wanted something like land, gold, or food. Basically, they wanted resources. Those resources would of course then be used to further the invading army's own populace and offspring. In the same exact way, pathogens rarely attack a person for no reason. They are there to use you and everything inside of you to their advantage. They may use you for shelter against the sun's rays, suck on your blood as a way of gaining food, and of course, use your body as a breeding ground for more pathogenic babies. You're a piece of land, food, and a birth center all in one for these guys. That's why they're out there to get you. One type of pathogen is a virus. A virus is a very small infectious agent that only replicates in living hosts. A virus is truly dependent on you to thrive and multiply. Otherwise, they hide away in their protective shells until they infect you. It's sort of like the medieval warriors who used protective covers to move in close to a castle's wall before trying to breach it, and then running inside out in the open to attack. The viruses also get rid of their shells once inside of you. Anyways, viruses cause a lot of problems in our body. The influenza virus, more commonly known as the flu virus, causes us respiratory problems. The HIV virus attacks our body's immune system. This causes our body's soldiers, the ones defending our fortress, to become very weak and sick. This, as you can imagine, makes it much easier for other pathogens to attack our body. Viruses also cause us colds and the stomach flu. The latter is commonly caused by a type of virus known as the norovirus, and the former by a type of virus called the rhinovirus, where rhino refers to a person's nose that's obviously commonly affected during a cold. This should be easy to remember since rhinos have a big horn on their nose, and when you get a cold, your nose gets all stuffy. In any case, the invading army trying to gain access to our body isn't just made up of viruses. There are also bacteria. Bacteria are microscopic organisms that are often shaped as rods, spheres, or spirals. Sometimes bacteria love to attack our body after a virus has attacked first and weakened our defenses. They're like a second wave of attack in a sense. Most bacteria are larger than viruses, and they can pack as harmful a punch to our body as a virus. Bacteria are responsible for many problems such as pneumonia and meningitis. Meningitis refers to the inflammation of the meninges, our brain's important outer protective layer. Basically, the bacteria are like enemy soldiers that try to set a wooden castle's outer protective wall on fire in this case. Bacteria do much more though. They are often responsible for things like urinary tract infections, strep throat, and scarlet fever. Other than bacteria and viruses, fungi use every opportunity they get to invade us. Fungi are microorganisms that include yeast, mushrooms, and mold. Interestingly, many times fungi like to attack us after we try to defend ourselves against bacteria with drugs that kill bacteria, known as antibiotics. Of course, they can also attack us on their own. One kind of well-known fungal infection is commonly known as a yeast infection. As a specific example, vaginal yeast infections, also known as genital candidiasis, is caused by a yeast that is part of the genus Candida. But there are many other different types of fungal infections that can affect everything from our skin to our respiratory tract to our urinary tract. Well-known examples of invading fungi include blastomyces, aspergillus, coccidioides, cryptococcus, histoplasma, and dermatophytes, the guys that cause ringworm. If you had any doubts before, you now know that ringworm is actually a fungus, despite the misnomer. It was once believed that this was caused by an actual worm, but this isn't true. However, worms and other parasites can and do infect humans, sometimes right underneath the skin, and other times in our eyes, intestines, liver, and brain. I kid you not. Parasites are organisms that derive a benefit from their host without giving one back. They're like a dinner guest that uses your home for warmth and food, but steals from you as they do so. While viruses, bacteria, and even fungi can be considered parasites, more commonly we use this word to refer to other types of pathogens that hurt us. These include ectoparasites, like mosquitoes, fleas, lice, and ticks. Ecto refers to something on the outside, so ectoparasites live on the outside of the host. They are like medieval enemies that set up camp outside the city walls and use the defending city's land outside the fortress as their own personal food bin. Ectoparasites don't just exert painful bites upon our body, they can also pass on some nasty diseases. They're like a Trojan horse, where through their bite they allow entry of other dangerous enemies into our body. Famously, a mosquito bite can transmit malaria, a disease caused by another parasite known as a protozoan. This protozoan, known as Plasmodium, is actually a type of endoparasite, where endo refers to something within, in our case, within our body. Other than Plasmodium, examples of parasites infesting us from within include tapeworms, roundworms, flukes, giardia, and much more. These endoparasites are often caught from eating undercooked meat and drinking contaminated water, and, albeit much more rarely, even by owning a cat or dog that's not controlled for parasites. Parasites or not, these pathogens are out to get you, use you, and in some serious cases even kill you. Pathogens are agents of disease. They include viruses, which are very small infectious agents that only replicate in living hosts, bacteria, which are microscopic organisms that are often shaped as rods, spheres, or spirals, fungi, which are microorganisms that include yeast, mushrooms, and mold, and parasites, which are organisms that derive a benefit from their host without giving one back. Viruses cause everything from the flu to HIV. Bacteria can cause meningitis and strep throat. Fungi love to cause yeast infections, and parasites attack our skin if they are an ectoparasite, or our intestines, as in the case of parasitic worms.